Good evening, night shifters. This is third shift HFY. Settle in and let tonight's stars tell their story.
Ah, you're still here. That's good. I was worried I'd have to start without you. And between us, this is a story best told with company. Tell me something before we begin. Have you ever seen someone truly beg for help? Not with words, but with silence. With the hollow look in their eyes when they realize no one is coming. This is a story about that moment, and what happens when someone does come. Not the ones you prayed for, not the ones you deserved, the ones you forgot about, the ones you abandoned, the humans. Now then, sit down, lean close. Let's begin with a prologue, shall we? Do you know what silence looks like? It isn't black or empty. It's a battlefield where nothing dares fall, a city where no one remembers their name, a council chamber where the words "we will help" are never spoken. There were once beings who built 1,000 empires across the spiral arms, tall, proud, full of ancient star charts and treaties polished to mirror sheen. They called themselves the Galactic Council. You may have heard of them. They were very good at waiting to speak, waiting to act, waiting for someone else to be first. And while they waited, the Charn Dominion did not. The Charn came in ships of obsidian glass. They did not roar or burn. They slipped in like thoughts you didn't ask to think, unwelcome, unshakable, and cold. They were psionic slavers. They did not chain bodies. They unraveled memories. They pulled love out of families, language out of mouths, hope out of entire bloodlines. And when they came for the Shalen, yes, the Shalen, let's talk about them. Beautiful creatures, soft-voiced, star-blooded. They once sang directions to their children instead of speaking. They built cathedrals in orbit around their moons, just to hear them echo. They were old, older than most, too proud to beg, too gentle to fight, and far too kind to be left alone. So, when the Charn came, and the Council waited, the Shalen simply faded. One planet, then another, not with fire, but with quiet, until only one voice remained, small, flickering. It was heard not by the Council, but by the ones everyone else had forgotten. And if you ask me how I know that, I'll remind you. I was watching. This part. This is the scene where the galaxy almost did the right thing. The Council met in their grand ring of light, a cathedral of stars, diplomacy and long, winding speeches. They convened beneath the emblem of unity. They used words like stability, due process, and evaluative deployment, all while entire systems screamed for help and went silent. Delegates from the fringe worlds, the ones who traded with Shalen pilgrims, the ones who still remembered their songs, pleaded for emergency aid. The Charn have devoured 3 systems, one insectoid delegate rasped. They leave no ruins, no prisoners. What we are seeing, another added, is cognitive annihilation. Still, the Council did what it did best. They formed a committee to assess the situation, to measure the cost, to propose a proposal. Some in the chamber fidgeted, hearing rumors, whispers of ships, not Charn ships, seen along the outer spirals, human ships. Earth is not to be contacted, one speaker said coldly. We don't interfere with ancient exile statuses. And the word hung there, exile, like a tombstone no one wanted to read aloud. The Council adjourned without decision. And across the stars, another Shalen world blinked out. I wonder if they would have acted faster had it been their own songs being silenced. Some species burn brightly when threatened, and some dim so gently you don't notice they're gone until you look back and find only silence. It began without sound, no sirens, no heroic last stands, no broadcasted pleas. The Shalen were not warriors. Their cities were carved into the roots of mountains, their halls tuned to resonate with breath. They read emotions by the way someone exhaled. Their libraries were sung, knowledge passed through voice, vibration, echo. When the Charn came, they didn't conquer with weapons. They arrived on whispers. One by one, the songs stopped. Memories were peeled from minds like fruit skin, fed into the Charn's psionic harvesters. Entire generations forgotten in an hour. A Shalen elder, a female, skin etched with bioluminescent memory patterns, stood at the edge of her world's high citadel and opened her mouth to sing. What came out was static. And then she smiled, because she remembered a name: Earth. "Let them think they have won," she said to no one, as her people knelt below in silence. "We were never meant to stand alone." And so, the last song of the Shalen did not end. It was carried. They don't live on Earth anymore. They outgrew it. And yet, they watch it still, as if recalling something carved into the bones of time itself. But they were the last that mattered, and the humans knew it. Far beyond the rim, past dead jump lanes and abandoned worm gates, a silent network stirred, invisible to Council senses, buried deep in the void between solar winds. A signal, old, encoded in pulse rhythm only one species remembered. Ashguard activation protocol. Echo threshold met. Aboard a ship that did not exist on any map, a figure awoke. Human. Female. Her skin bore no tattoos, only scars in perfect sequence down her forearms. One for each oath fulfilled. She rose from her stasis chamber without speaking. She did not look surprised. Ashguard didn't ask why the signal fired. They simply prepared. Across 100 hidden stations, armor sealed around soldiers without ranks. Weapons grew from spine ports. Eyes adjusted to the light of distant stars where they would not be welcomed. They did not call the Council. They did not broadcast intent. They did not warn. The Ashguard are what humanity became. Not warriors, not angels, something in between. They did not descend like gods. They walked through fire as if they'd lit it themselves. The Charn knew something carved into the bones of time itself. Their war singers fell silent. Their psionic fog, usually thick enough to drown entire cities in hallucination, broke like glass. And then, across the sky of a half-burned Shalen world, came the first spiral. It wasn't a ship, not at first. It was a symbol, projected in light and sound, etched onto the clouds by orbiting satellites the Council hadn't even known existed. Ashguard Directive 9. Cease suppression immediately. If suppression continues, kinetic reversal will commence. No negotiation, no surrender, no survivors. The Charn laughed, until the sky split open. They thought it was a meteor storm. But meteors don't move like surgical decisions. Don't strike only command nodes. Don't spare clinics and temples and civilian shelters, as if recalling something carved into the bones of time itself. They deployed consequences. On the ground, 3 humanoid figures walked through fire-walked city ruins. Each was different. One broad-shouldered and plated in black, one lean and angular, the third limping but scanning. They spoke in low bursts. No ceremony, no speeches. When they passed Shalen survivors hiding in debris, they offered no comfort. Only a gesture. A single spiral glyph projected from the back of their gauntlet. "You're not safe," said one, their voice mechanized but clear. "But you're not alone." They don't want to be worshipped. They only want the galaxy to understand the cost of waiting too long. It's always the same. They build their thrones tall, hoping the consequences won't reach that high. The Council reconvened, not out of guilt, out of fear. There were reports now, dozens, hundreds, not of invasions, of precise disappearances. Entire Charn outposts blinked offline, their psionic beacons overwritten by an unfamiliar glyph. The spiral. Shalen refugees were appearing on planets thought uninhabitable, escorted, fed, healed, and in every broadcast from those worlds, one figure always stood in the background. Human, armor faintly glowing, saying nothing. Now the Council chambers buzzed like a hornet nest. "We did not authorize Earth intervention. Their ships violate Council patrol sectors. This is unsanctioned force deployment. Reckless." A lone figure, a older quadrupedal alien with pale skin and silver eye rings, spoke last. "And yet," they said softly, They succeeded. Silence. Real silence. The kind that tastes like a swallowed confession. What if, someone whispered, they're not intervening anymore? What if this is just what they do now? They finally opened their mouths, but by then, the humans had already moved on. You'd think this is where they begged, but the Charn, they didn't know how. The Charn responded the only way they knew how. Psychic storms, planetary purges, the mass unmaking of thought itself. Entire Shalen recovery zones were targeted, whole moons reduced to memory tombs. It was not war, it was defiance. A wounded tyrant lashing out before the end. And the Ashguard did not blink. They struck in silence. One by one, Charn hive minds unraveled like corrupted data. Where once thousands of voices screamed in psychic unity, only one echo remained. You were warned. Ashguard ships came without lights. No broadcast, no request. They hovered above the Charn core world like ghosts too solid to disbelieve. And then they opened, not with fire, with gravity. The world cracked along its equator. Its atmosphere peeled like skin. Cities didn't burn, they were erased. One inverted column of compressed matter after another. Precise, surgical, final. The councils screamed into their relay nets. They'll collapse the entire system. But by the time the council finished screaming, the system was gone. No message, no monument, just a spiral carved into what was left of the orbital ring. You see, it wasn't justice. It was the promise of consequence. And humanity, they never break promises. This is the part they never record. There are no victory speeches, no parades, just the ones left standing, wondering why. The Charn were gone, not defeated, erased, their worlds now orbiting debris fields and silence. But the Ashguard didn't stay. No settlements, no flag planted, no demands. Only a single message left behind, in a dozen languages, etched into the walls of every Shalen recovery temple. Next time, call sooner. The Shalen gathered in what remained of their voice holes, not to celebrate, to mourn. They remembered the names that had been unspoken too long. They sang again, not songs of triumph, but of survival. The kind of melody sung in the shadow of obliteration. And humanity? Gone. Vanished like a knife pulled from flesh, clean, purposeful, unforgettable. One child, Shalen, maybe 10 cycles old, asked their elder, "Will they come back?" The elder paused, looked to the stars. "Not if we're lucky," she said. "Not unless we fail again." They came because they heard the silence, not the screaming, not the begging, the silence. That's what they listen for. That's what brings them. So if you ever feel the stars watching you, ask yourself, why are you being watched? Oh, still here? Good. That means you listened. And listening is where all the trouble begins. I don't usually stay this long, you know, but something about this little species, your humans, has me checking in more often than I'd like to admit. They're messy, stubborn. They chew on problems they should run from. And then they show up like this. Spiral glyphs, precision justice, absolute poetry. If this story left a little burn behind your ribs, you might like the others. Ever heard of the one where a Viking warband gets ripped out of their timeline and dropped into an alien deathmatch? Let's just say, the aliens didn't cheer for long. Or perhaps the story where the galaxy watched humanity rise again, but this time not with fire, with silence. That one's called Return of the Abandoned Child. It's a favorite of mine. I'll be around. You won't see me, but I'll see you. Oh, and subscribe. I'd hate to show up and have to explain everything again. Until the next story, traveler,